breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends. As we always get great information when Colby Marchio is aboard, we're going to be taking a look at the player prop market with him, what's all been working for him, what has not been working for him, how he's looking at pitchers this time of year as well, and we're going to be diving in with just a lot of good, clean family fun with him in segment number 2. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters M maybe does not matter, so as per usual, please just send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. Over at EdgeBoost, they're making sure that bettors are able to access their funds whenever and wherever they would like. When you go to edgeboost.bet, utilize that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. And let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Thursday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Marlins have now won 9 out of their last 10 games. They take down the Minnesota Twins by a count of 4-1 as for the Twins, David Festa did not have a fiesta, giving up 4 runs in 6 innings, including a home run to Agustin Ramirez, 13th home run of the season, but Yuri Perez did. Best start of the season for him, 6 scoreless innings out of him. Gay Gibson does give up a whole solo home run in 2/3 of an inning of work as Matt Wallner's 8th home run of the campaign, but Anthony Bender out of the bullpen scoreless. Calvin Fauché, Ronnie Enriquez both lend a scoreless inning, and Justin Topa, Cody Funderburk, they were both able to turn a scoreless inning of their own. The Colorado Rockies find a way to get to win number 20 of the season. Still on pace to lose north of 125 games, but 7-6 they take down the Houston Astros. Brandon Walter did not have a good start. 5 runs allowed in 5 innings, including a home run to Thairo Estrada, 2nd home run of the campaign. From there, Jordan Weems gives up 2 runs in 2 innings. Caleb Bort a scoreless inning out of the bullpen, and for the Astros, they go 2 of 10 with men in scoring position. As for Kyle Freeland, he does give up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, but bends the bit does not break. Seth Alverson, he goes for 1 1/3 innings out of the bullpen, gives up a run. Victor Vondick, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Juan Mejia was able to give you a scoreless inning for the Toronto Blue Jays. They continue the Yankees' misery as the Blue Jays sweep the Yankees to take the American League East lead, and that was a 4-game sweep, 8-5 the final for the Yankees. Clark Schmidt did not have it in this one. 3 runs allowed over the course of 3 innings, including a home run given up to George Springer, his 14th home run season. Then he goes deep off of Luke Weaver as well, 15th home run season. As Weaver does not look right now. Gave up 2 runs in his inning of work. Mark Leiter Jr., a scoreless inning. Jonathan Loaiza got 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but they had to go to Mr. Beater, Clayton Beater, for 1 2/3 innings. He gave up 3 runs, all of which were earned, so he lived up to his name. He got beatered. And then for the Yankees, 12 men stranded on base. You did have Trent Kishram get his 16th home run season off of Chris Bassett. He was taking hook, line, and sinker for 3 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings, but Braden Fisher, pair of outs out of the bullpen, he gives up 2 runs. Chad Green, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. Jeff Hoffman, a scoreless inning, and Justin Brewer was able to give you an out of the bullpen scoreless as well for the Washington Nationals. 11-7, they were able to take down the Detroit Tigers. If you read it top to bottom, 7-11. So these 2 teams were both open to giving up runs. And for Detroit, you had Spencer Torkelson get his 19th home run season. That comes off of Jake Irvin. Irvin gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings. And Cole Henry, pair of outs out of the bullpen, he gives up 2 runs. Brad Lord says, oh Lord, to giving up 2 runs over the course of an inning. Kyle Finnegan has scoreless inning, and Jose Ferrer and out of the bullpen scoreless. And for Washington, they did a nice job getting to Dietrich Enns. Enns gives up a home run to James Wood. Goodwood for 23rd home run of the campaign. And Paul DeYoung, his 1st home run of the season. Enns gives up 8 runs, 7 to earn over the course of 4 innings. Brendan Hennepy gives up an unearned run in an inning. You had Bailey Horn give you a scoreless inning. Boves, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And Carlos Hernandez, 1 1/3 innings. He allows 2 runs along the way. For the Milwaukee Brewers, they've been really good at scoring runs on the road this far this season. Not so much on Thursday, though. 3-2. They do fall to the New York Mets. And for the Mets, you were able to get good production in this one out of Mr. David Peterson. Great name. 2 runs, one of which was earned, allowed in 6 2/3 innings. Did give up a home run to Andrew Marisario, first home run on the campaign, and Jose Quintana. 3 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. He does give up home run number 17 of the season to Brandon Nimmo. From there, Nick Mears. Pair of outside the bullpen squirrels, Grant Anderson, Abner Uribe. They both lend a scoreless inning in. For the Metropolitans, Ryan Stanek, 1 1/3 inning scoreless, and Edwin Diaz, now below a 2 ERA. He's been very solid recently. Scoreless inning of his own. Lots of scoreless innings out there in Chicago. 1-0. The Cubs take down the Cleveland Guardians in 10 innings. Nothing doing for either of these teams at the plate as Joey Cantillo got the surprise start with Luis Ortiz currently being investigated for gambling. Congratulations there. 3 1/3 inning scoreless. Eric Zabrowski, 5 outs of the bullpen scoreless. Cade Smith, scoreless inning. Hunter Gaddis, 2 scoreless innings, and Emmanuel Clase in the 10th inning gives up an unearned run as Brian Shaw gets a sacrifice fly to be able to get the job done for Cleveland. 0 of 6 with men in scoring position. The Cubs 0 of 4 with men in scoring position as Cade Horton here's a really good start. 7 scoreless innings. Drew Pomeranz, Ryan Brazier combined for a scoreless inning, and Ryan Presley and Chris Flexen, they're both able to give you a scoreless inning. For the Giants, they string back-to-back wins together. They take down the Arizona Diamondbacks by a count of 7-2. As for San Francisco, complete game out of Robbie Ray, who said hip hooray to giving up 2 solo home runs in his 9 innings of work, and Eugenio Suarez, 27th home run on the campaign. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte is 19th, and Brandon Pfaadt battled through 6 innings, giving up 4 runs along the way. From there, John Curtis with 2 S's gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. Jalen Beeks a scoreless inning, but Kevin Ginkel gives up a run in an inning. As for the Giants, 4 of 7 with men in scoring position to persevere there. For the Braves, they are back down below 500 by 8 games, 5-1. The LA Angels get the job done. Angels, in terms of the most amount of money that you made on the money line for any team, they're the most profitable team as they had a pair of home runs. Nolan Chunel off of Bryce Elder, 8th home run on the campaign. Zach Neto is 13th as Elder pitched like he was elderly, giving up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings. Anya de los Santos gives up a run in an inning, but Austin Cox 2 scoreless innings. Rossio Iglesias a scoreless inning, and lone form of offense for the Braves, Drexel Profar, welcome back off of suspension. 2nd home run on the campaign that comes off of Brock and Rolberg in the 9th inning, who gave up a run in an inning. Sam Bachman a scoreless inning, and then Jose Soriano, he was able to give you 7 scoreless. Has been really good on the road thus far this season, and a team that has been really good, the LA Dodgers. They get the job done. They take down the Chicago White Sox. Currently doing this as they're going into the 9th inning. 6-2 is that score. Aaron Savali, 5 runs allowed, only 2 of which was earned. He did give up a home run to Michael Conforto, 7th home run on the campaign, and then Tyler Gilbert gives one up to Mookie Betts, 10th home run season for Gilbert. Gives up that home run in 1 2/3 innings of work. Dan Altavia, 1 1/3 innings scoreless, and you did have Drake Baldwin get a home run off of Dustin May, 4th home run on the campaign, and for May, 7+ innings, gives up 2 runs, so rock solid there. Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates. From there, polished off the 8th and 9th innings, and for the Kansas City Royals, I'm currently doing this as it's in the bottom of the 8th inning, so we shall see what happens here, but they're currently leading by a count of 3-1. Do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, but for the Seattle Mariners, they got a really good start out of Logan Evans. Evans goes 5 2/3 innings scoreless, and then the bullpen, well, you acted up. Casey Lugumina, pair of outs out of the bullpen, he gives up 2 runs, and then Carlos Vargas gives up 1 run in 2/3 of an inning. Edward Bizardo, he goes for a scoreless inning, and for the Kansas City Royals, Seth Lugo, he goes 6 1/3 innings, allows a solo home run as Ore Polanco took him deep for his 12th home run on the campaign. Currently, as I'm doing this, the Seattle Mariners are 0 of 8 with men in scoring position, and Lucas Hursedge, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Taylor Clark, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Carlos Estevez right now looking to take out the Seattle Mariners. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, we've had a bit of an overwhelming last 7 days in what has been an underwhelming season. 48 overs and 42 unders with a game or two pending from Thursday, so that's a 53.3% hit rate to the over, with favorites hitting at about a 50-50 clip. 46 and 45 on the money line. Meanwhile, if you look at the overall season, favorites are hitting at only about 57.8%, 748 and 545 on the money line. Meanwhile, the under 8 hitting at about 52.7%, 661 unders to 593 overs. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. And coming up next, how about if we talk about the player prop market with one of our good friends, and Colby Marchio does great work over at Your Betting News right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VC Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VC Family Podcast. great to be joined by this man as Colby Marchio. He does such great work over at Your Betting News. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know he does a little bit of everything over there. They've got a lot of streams, a lot of podcasts you're able to catch all throughout the week, so he does a tremendous job there. And whenever he hits a home run prop, you are going to hear about it. You are going to be feeling the energy. I live out here in lovely Las Vegas. I think that there was an earthquake coming specifically from Kobe's place out there in the Midwest the last time he hit one. And you're able to follow him on Twitter/X at KobeMBets all together. Kobe, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
100%. The videos were very scarce in June. We're now in July. There wasn't as many as there was in May, but I typically have bad June. So I'm looking forward to hopefully a positive July. And it hasn't started off too hot, but I'm manifesting a good June for myself and whoever has the balls to tail me right now.
And I think that that's so interesting that you mentioned that. And how about if we do? Why do you think that it is sometimes that June is a little bit more difficult than July and the rest of the months? Because I'm right there with you. I had a little bit of a rough June, and it always seems to be just very random with regards to baseball in the month of June.
I was talking about it with Mike Somich last Saturday because he asked the same exact question you're asking me now. And I really don't get it. It's very weird because I always say June is when everything comes together and you know who is who. You can trust the data from this season because it's a big enough sample size to know, hey, Cal Raleigh's having a pretty good season this year for himself. And we know everyone else who's who. I think it's the problem where the weather's getting warmer and hitting streaks are longer than you would probably assume in the beginning of the season. I usually stay away from streaks. I get scared of those. And I probably buy at the wrong time of guys coming off of those streaks. Maybe I should give them a game and a half, 2 games to get back on track. But I feel like it's the point in the season where I also second guess myself, especially coming off a really good month like I had in April. I'm just like, well, can I do it again today? And then I second guess myself and I leave a lot of leans off the board. And those guys usually come out on top. But I also been telling myself I need to do more hit parlays, not like big ones, maybe just 2 legs, 3 legs max. And I've been telling my listeners and viewers that anytime I give out a basis prop, I give out the percentages of them being elite on Bettors-Box of their hit percentages and their trends, just for you, the listener, to be like, hey, maybe I should parlay these 2 and get probably plus 115, plus 120, or even more on some of these guys that I give out, because that's still good value. You're betting on something so simple as the base hit, and you don't get screwed on the half, or it's a 2.5 basis, which I never take. I think it's a silly goose bet to take a 2.5 basis prop, but just a better sample size of maybe a more value than wishing for the double or the home run or 2 hits. It's a lot, if you will. Once the season gets rolling, it's a lot of second guessing and a lot of reworking a lot of the process. So it's tough. It's a long season, and there's going to be a lot of second guessing throughout the year.
Yep, no question about it. There is going to be a lot of it. And when it comes to this time of year, do you find that the home run props, they do get a little bit warmer? And just in terms of the players that you look for, is there maybe a different sort of player that you take a look at towards this part of the season versus maybe early on during the season?
What I'm starting to hate is how I feel like I'm going back to the same 5 players every 4 days. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I put Rafi Devers on the ban list, which I never make. I don't like ban lists. I don't think you can ban a team or a player, but maybe get off them for a couple days or a week or so. I gave him a week off, and then I knew it was the right time to buy, and it happened. He's having a weird season. Who else I'm trying to think of who else I'm usually on, and I'm like, oh, my God, somebody's going to say something to me on Twitter if I'm on him again. I haven't bet Schwarber in a while. Schwarber was my Rafi Devers before the last couple of weeks. And I miss Schwarber a lot because you get a great price for Schwarber. They don't know how to price him. They'll give you minus 150 for his base hit. And I think that's a great price for a base hit, especially if someone like Kyle Schwarber, who is typically always on base, and he's in a lineup where you have to throw to him. And I get he walks a lot. So right now I can only think recency bias of Rafi Devers is somebody that I keep looking at. And just the big names. Anyone that has a problem with me on the big names every day or so, just know that there's a better sample size. They produce the most hard contact. I love being invested in guys that produce a lot of hard contact, and I'm just looking for the best value that I can, and typically it's the studs.
Yep, absolutely. And with Kyle Schwarber, he's been going a little bit cold, but he's a guy that has been able to be rock solid as well. And have you thought about jumping on some of these guys that have had the outbursts that they have this season? Like, obviously, Cal Raleigh has been absolutely tremendous this far this season, and he's a guy that is drawing a lot of attention. But I do feel like there have been a few other guys that have been able to rise up. And have these been guys that maybe that were off your list towards the beginning part of the season that you're starting to grow a little bit of a liking to?
I'm starting to. I don't know. I don't want to say not like Cal Raleigh. I'm going to go on a rant real quick, Greg. And you mentioned Cal Raleigh. I need to get this off my chest. And this past week, it's been grinding my gears seeing a lot of people talk about Cal Raleigh to win MVP right now. Don't do that. You missed your mark 2 weeks ago when he was 20-1 before he went into Wrigley and dominated. And really, you exclude that weekend. I don't think he's done much for the number to drop that drastically, because he was already paced to break the most home runs catcher All-Star break and by a switch hitter before the All-Star break. Sure, he is still on pace to potentially beat Barry Bonds' first half record. They're walking him. They're giving him the walk treatment. They're giving him the Barry Bonds treatment before the All-Star break the All-Star break happens. And I don't want to be on him. I don't want to be on him because everyone around him isn't as good as he is. And Cal Raleigh, stats-wise, is really just a glorified switch-hitting Kyle Schwarber. So he's also going to be in the home run derby. I don't want to be on that second half hangover. I think there's better value elsewhere. If you think Aaron Judge gets injured at some point in this season, I think if you want a long shot, I put a bet on 120-1 on Tarek Skubal. I think it's a great price. It's better than taking a Cy Young right now. I also think, speaking of Kyle Schwarber, I took his most home runs this season bet at 30-1 because I don't want to be on Judge. I don't want to take Cal Raleigh because they're going to walk him, and there's no protection in that lineup for him. And I am not paying 3-1 for Ohtani when I can get 30-1 on the fourth guy, Kyle Schwarber, where they have to throw to him, and he's somebody who kind of heats up as the season goes on. So I think those two guys I want to be on and I want to fade. So Cal Raleigh, today I was looking at, as we're reporting on Friday, Junior, Thursday, I was potentially going to bet Cal Raleigh to get a walk at plus 150. So I would consider looking at that every single day if you're somebody looking at Cal Raleigh, because he's not going to get many pitches going forward, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that teams are starting to hone in on the fact that, Cal Raleigh, he's having himself a pretty good year. He's on pace for the American League record for most home runs. Maybe we shouldn't be pitching to him quite as much. But not
batting above 270. He's not going to bat above 270 the rest of the season. I don't think so. And you can't give a guy the MVP at 270 batting average. Well, Colby, batting average doesn't mean much. Well, look at Aaron Judge. Just because he doesn't have the home runs, he has everything else.
Yeah, and he also does a great job in the field. And I will say this as well. Do you think that maybe it does help out Cal Raleigh that he is a catcher, that he is playing the catcher spot every single day too? Because I do think that that's one element that really gets lost in this, because we just haven't had a catcher have this much success. And I think that that actually could be a good argument for Cal Raleigh.
I do think that, and I've always found it interesting why the catcher usually isn't the best hitter on the team, because it's such a demanding position. But you see so many balls, you would think you would have a better eye for knowing pitches better than anybody, because all you do is look at pitches all day long. But I do agree with that. Like I said, I think he's kind of a Kyle Schwarber type. It's either a single, a home run, a walk, or he's not doing anything. So I don't know if you can give the MVP to him. Yeah, especially 3-1. Don't even be thinking about it.
Yeah, 3-1, it's gotten too far. Even when it was at like plus $8, 10-1, absolutely, I thought that there was still some value there. But I do think that now that the number has gotten this short, it does make it a little bit more of a roll of the dice. As Colby Marchio does great work over at Your Betting News. He's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And obviously, you specialize a lot in terms of hit props. Is this the time of year where maybe you start to take a look at a few more pitcher props as well, / fading some of these really, really bad pitchers that have a full sample set of data and have shown that they have not been great this year?
100%. I don't like to force pitcher props unless they really come to me. In the last week or so, I think I had a couple ladders. I had Crochet and Zach Wheeler, which have been great. Somebody, I love to fade Antonio Sanzantella, and I've made a point that it's a system play. Anytime he starts, I'm going to fade him somehow, whether it's first 5 run line, first 5 money line, first 5 team total over, whatever is the best value. And the funny thing is, I think I've only won one bet since I've made a point and posted about it, which is typical posting what you want to do on like gambling every week. which is hysterical. And just get over yourself, people. You're going to lose a bet regardless. So being comfortable with that. And I always say spin zone, you got to look at it like this. He gets to keep his job a little bit longer. But Antonio Senzatella is definitely always on my radar. Anybody in that Rockies rotation is always on my radar. Luis Ortiz was on my radar, but it looks like he does what we do. So allegedly, I'm not making assumptions. Allegedly, he does what we do, Greg. But now I guess we're no longer looking at Luis Ortiz. I'm trying to think of somebody else, but I want to find spots to also, I have to make a point to this. Shout out to Adam Rosenberg. I'm fully hooked on the double plays. Back-to-back days, I'm going back to the Angels because they're giving me a good price. Hopefully they come through tonight. Jose Soriano, who's a near 70% ground ball pitcher. I know he gives up a lot of hard contact, so you want that with the double play. That's such a fun bet. You're rooting for everybody. It's a team effort, both sides. Somebody's got to get on. Somebody's got to turn the double play. Both teams have to contribute to that bet. I'm trying to think of another pitcher that I like, but definitely like looking at Crochet K's. I like looking at Zach Wheeler K's. I have a Zach Wheeler NL Cy Young, so I love anything that promotes him to be the Cy Young winner. It makes me feel good inside, makes me feel smart. So, yeah, it's a small amount of guys that I can trust when I'm on them to take overs and ladders.
Yeah, Ben, I think that is so interesting that you mentioned Senzatella because he's on the bump against the Chicago White Sox. Nothing says the 4th of July like having the White Sox out there against the Colorado Rockies. My gosh, what a brutal matchup this is. With the White Sox, they're minus 125. And how do you take a look at a matchup like this where it's two toilet bowl teams in a, shall we say, a series in which I don't know who's all going to be tuned in. The Rockies are still selling out, by the way. For as bad as they are, people are still going to the ballpark for the Colorado Rockies, but this might be the most intriguing series of the entire slate, and not for the right reasons.
Here's what the people need to do, Greg. They need to turn on the game if they can watch it.
Gouge out their eyes?
Yeah. No, they're going to go over to your Twitter/X account. They're going to find what beer they should be drinking, get demolished off that, and have a couple hot dogs and bet on the over. Because in that game, you just want to root for the most runs. Also, shout out to all the Ryans that showed up at Coors. That's absolutely awesome. It's kind of cool. I've made a point to follow anybody I can that like has a beat on the Rockies, because I want to know what you're talking about. You have to talk about something positive, and I want to know what that positivity talk is all about. So it's really cool seeing a bunch of guys they're in love with over there in Colorado, knowing they're probably getting traded in a couple of weeks. So that's hysterical to me.
Yep, and I actually do think that this could be an interesting spot for the over because Adrian Hauser has been really good for the Chicago White Sox, but you have Antonio Senzatella on the flip side as well, and I feel like it might be a case where the White Sox may need to do all the damage by themselves. So that's interesting.
And it's a course, which is awesome. And the ball's going to move a little bit. Maybe they give them the juice balls. I don't know. I don't believe in that, but maybe I do. Maybe I don't. And we get one of those highest scoring games of the day, and we deserve that on the 4th.
Yes, we certainly do. And on the 4th of July, is there anything else that you might be targeting / are there any players that are starting to come onto your radar a little bit more that maybe they were off of it a few weeks ago?
One thing I'm targeting for 4th of July is hot dogs, but prop wise, I really just need to maybe rethink a little bit of my process and maybe stop I don't want to say forcing because I go through a lot when I look at player props and what I like on my checklist. Maybe trying to find somebody new and overlook the quote unquote stars of the team and maybe give those guys a break. I was supposed to be on Michael Busch, Greg, and I was very excited to have a new name on my card, but Luis Ortiz happened. So I'll try to find some newbies. I'm looking and hoping I find some newbies because I need something different, because that's something I need to change because my record isn't doing too well right now.
Well, we do have Antonio Senzatella on the mound. We've got a lot of TBD pitchers right now, which I find to be very intriguing as we record this, but a man that he is always on the roster. He is always providing great insight. That'd be you, my friend Colby. Let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
100%. Follow me over on X/Twitter, whatever you call it. It's always Twitter in my mind, at Colby M. Betts, ColbyMBETS. That's where all my write-ups are from Betting News. Check out Betting News. All our write-ups are free. Everything is free and transparent that I write. Nothing will ever be charged. It never needs to be charged. Yeah, the fun is on over there. Check out everything that I got going on. Streams every week, all the time. The pickoff, up your units. Check it all out over on Betting News. And yeah, thanks as always, Greg. It's always a blessing and an honor to be on the show with you.
And it's always great to be able to have Colby aboard. He does such a sensational job taking a look at this great game of baseball, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So, big thanks to Colby for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming next, it is that time of the podcast. They give you picks and analysis on every game for this 4th of July Friday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Colby Marchio. He does such great work over at Your Betting News, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. Did so once again today. So big thanks to Colby for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday, this 4th of July Friday, as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we're going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any intra-league games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So, but if we do get things served, 951, 952 on the card. It is the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies as Jesus Luzardo gets the start for the Phillies, and Andrew Abbott goes for the Reds. The Reds do find themselves anywhere between plus 128 to plus 136 underdogs, and between minus 150 to minus 157. That number on the Phillies with 8.5 being the total, under is minus 120, and the over is at even. I did set my total at 8.7. I'm going to be the one to take a shot on the over. Andrew Abbott has been absolutely tremendous this far this season, but I do think that he might be doing for a little bit of regression, as for Andrew Abbott, he has had a pretty unsustainable ERA of hovering right around about a 179. He has been able to do a really good job in terms of keeping the ball in the yard, though, giving up about a home run per 9 innings, but 351 fielding dependent compared to that 179 ERA. 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, has given up 1 earned run or fewer in each out of his last 4 starts. There were quite a few unearned runs given up against the Minnesota Twins, but I do think that there needs to be a little bit of caution here, and for Andrew Abbott, he's got a $1.42 ERA on the road, so we do have to give him a lot of credit there. And for Jesus Luzardo, it's been very interesting for him, as in his first 11 starts of the season, allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in every one of them, and he is doing for a lot of positivity. 275 fielding independent, 406 ERA. He's starting to find it once again. 2 earned runs or fewer given up in 3 out of his last 4 starts after he just had a disastrous 2-start stretch where he gave up a combined 20 runs. But for the Philadelphia Phillies, this is a case where the offense has been a little bit hit or miss. Now you're getting back Bryce Harper. That should be able to help you out. He had 9 home runs early part of the season, but he gets banged up, and now he's trying to work his way back. For this Philadelphia Phillies team as well, you've been able to have Trey Turner down for what? Give you about a 300 average. He's up to a double-figure amount of homers. Nick Castellanos has been able to hit for darn near about a 280 along with Alec Boehm, but you're not necessarily getting a ton of power out of those guys. And for the Cincinnati Reds, it's been a bullpen that's been a little bit hit or miss. Well, the Phillies bullpen has clearly been a miss this far this season. 4.42 ERA for the Phillies bullpen, more around a 4.11 for the Reds. Reds are 19th in bullpen ERA. Phillies, they're more on 24th. As for the Phillies, you've got Orion Kerkering, who's giving you a sub-3 ERA, and then Tanner Banks, Matt Strom, Joe Ross, all these other guys are posting up well north of a 3.5 ERA. Meanwhile, for the Reds, you've had Lyon Richardson give you some good innings, but he's starting to regress. Graham Ashcraft, Lyons on the injured list. Tony Santillan, Taylor Rogers, these have been guys give you a sub-3.75 ERA, but certainly has not been necessarily the most savory for them as well. But for the Cincinnati Reds, they have been actually hitting a little bit better when they've been away from home rather than when they have been at home this season. For the Cincinnati Reds, they've got Ellie De La Cruz, who's been able to give you 18 plus home runs thus far this season, and it almost makes no sense that you've got a Red team that's averaging about 4.8 runs per game away from home rather than 4.5 runs per game at home, considering they call it Great American Small Park. But for the Reds, you do have a guy like a TJ Friedel who's been able to give you about a 380 on base. Matt McClain has not necessarily been able to give you a lot of average, but he's starting to give you some power, and I do like the fact that you get Austin the Say's kid back in the fold. I do think that that's going to help them out quite a bit. For the Cincinnati Reds, I do feel like they should be a mid-sized underdog here. Set them at a plus 139. When it's all said and done, I do think that I'll probably be able to get that plus 140 to be able to take a shot on the Reds on the money line. If you're looking to lay a run half right now with the Phillies, you'd be only getting about a plus 130. So if we can get to a plus 140 140, which I think I should be able to. We'll be looking at the Reds on the money line, and here at this 8.5, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. 953, 954 on the betting board. It is the Chicago Cubs. They play us to the St. Louis Cardinals. We know that it's going to be Miles Mikolas on the bump for the Cardinals. This should be Colin Ray going for the Cubs. It's still a little bit TBD, but we're starting to get some openers here with the Cubs at a minus 148 plus 126 on the Cardinals. And the initial FanDuel opener for this total is 7.5. Over is even money, and the under is at minus 120. If you take a look at the wind conditions, it does appear as though the wind is going to be blowing out. Not like super duper hard or anything like that, but you're going to be getting like 8 mile per hour winds, maybe closer to 7, and I do think that this does warrant a little bit of higher total. I set mine at a 10.7, so if we do get a 10.5 when it's all said and done, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. And assuming we do indeed get Colin Ray, it has been more like Colin Boo recently, as he got off to a relatively nice start to the season, but all of a sudden that ERA is up to about a 5.37 as he's allowing the deep ball. 1.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Feel the opponent more around about a 483 as he's not a power pitcher. He's only getting about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and a lot of his struggles have been coming at home, man. A lot of it has been due to the warmer weather, along with just the wind blowing out on a lot of his starts. 4.53 home ERA, and at home he is giving up darn near 2 home runs per 9 innings. And to the credit of Miles Mikolas, he's been able to keep the ball in the yard, but this is not a guy that is fooling anyone. 4.76 ERA with 6.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. To his credit, only allowing about 1 home run per 9 innings, but he has been lit up for 3+ runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts. And you've got a Cubs team that is currently number 2 in the National League in terms of runs per game, as you've got so many guys that are supplying boom for this team. You've got Pete Armstrong alongside Suzuki, both being able to supply 20+ home runs this season. Michael Busch has been able to do a nice job of finding a way on base. He's been able to give you north of a 365 on base with 14 home runs. We've had Kyle Tucker step up 390 on base, 17 home runs. Even though Nico Horner isn't hitting for a lot of power, he still finds way on. He's hitting about a 290, and for the Chicago Cubs, additionally, this bullpen has been absolutely magnificent. Since May 1st, number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Again, I just don't know how sustainable it is when you have these guys like Caleb Theobar, Chris Flexen, Drew Pomeranz, Brad Keller, Daniel Palencia, all being guys who give you a sub-2 ERA. I do think that that'll be going northward a little bit, but I think they've been able to do a great job there. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, this has been a bullpen that has been a little bit shaky, with Ryan Helsley not necessarily being up to par thus far this season. I think it's the best way of putting it, but you've had some of the other guys like Kyle Leahy, Riley O'Brien, Jojo Romero, Phil Matone, all be able to step up, give this team a sub-3 ERA. And then for the St. Louis Cardinals, this is a lineup that is very much lacking power. They're in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, but you do have a quartet of guys: Alec Burleson, Lars Nootbaar, Nolan Arenado, Wilson Contreras, all give you between 10 and 11 home runs thus far this season. Pretty much everyone aside from Arenado has been able to give you at least a 325 on base as well. Brendan Donovan finds a way to move the line, hitting at 295. Victor Scott, though he doesn't hit for a lot of average, he's giving you 330 on base, 22 stolen bases out of him. Devon Herrera injury really hurts from a power perspective, so that does hurt them a little bit here. And I do think that Miles Mikolas is just going to give up a lot of, shall we say, general contact. So it is a circumstance where I did set my money line at a minus 162 in terms of Cubs, plus 115 or better. I will be looking at the run line, and I should be able to get that when it's all said and done. I made my total 10.7, so 10.5 or less. I like the over. 955, 956 on the card. The Miami Marlins play us to the Milwaukee Brewers. Quinn Preister is on the bump for the Brewer crew, and Sandy Alcantara goes for Miami. Total on this game is 8, over and under both at minus 110. Brewers are between minus 110 to a minus 115. Even money to minus 105 is that number on Miami. And I'm going to be willing to back the Brewers on the money line. I did set them at a minus 132. Quinn Preister has really been good for the Brewers, by the way. He comes in with a sub 350 ERA, has really been rocking and rolling in his last few starts. As for Preister, he has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in pretty much all but one of his starts this far this season. And for Preister, he's not necessarily going to blow you away. He's only been able to get in the neighborhood about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Has needed to turn down the walks a little bit, about 3.2 walks per 9 innings, but coming off of a really nice 11 strikeout performance in his last start against the Colorado Rockies, and he has given up now a grand total of 6 earned runs across his last 5 starts. For Preister, has been able to do a pretty rock solid job when he has been away from home as well. Miami is one of the more pitcher-friendly ballparks in all of baseball. He's given up a 3.66 ERA when he's been away from home. For Miami, this is a bottom 5 team in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. You do have Kyle Stowers, who's been able to do a nice job of being able to go yard for you. He's up to 14 home runs, and Augustin Ramirez has been able to give you 11 bombs as well. But outside of those two guys, it's a lot of station-to-station baseball. baseball. You've got Eric Wagaman, who's been able to hit about a 250, along with Otto Lopez. You've had some relatively good production out of Xavier Edwards at the top, a 360 on base, 15 stolen bases. Dane Myers has been able to hit darn near 300 as well, but also have a pair of teams that do have bullpens that are currently in the bottom 10 of the big leagues in terms of their ERA. For the Milwaukee Brewers, you are banking on Yo Payam's Elvis Piquero being really rock solid for them, and neither of these guys are currently with the team. You've had Abner Uribe, Nick Mears, Trevor McGill all give you a sub-3.5 ERA, but long guys have been a little bit hit or miss. And for the Miami Marlins, you're seeing some guys rise up for them. Lake Bakar, Ronnie Enriquez, these guys give you a sub-3.5 ERA. Anthony Bender has actually been really good for them as well, but Jesus Sunoco landed on the injured list, was doing a big giant nothing for them. They've been looking to mix and match with some of these long relievers like a Tyler Phillips, Kelvin Fauché. These guys are both supplying you with north of 4 ERA. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, 5.6 runs per game away from home. I don't think that this is going to be long lasting. That is number one in the big leagues. And the Brewers are outside the top 22 in terms of home runs on our per at-bat basis, as you've got 3 guys on the roster with north of 6 home runs this season: Christian Yelich, Jackson Trio, Rhys Hoskins. And a lot of these guys are getting on base. Trio not really that, 285 on base, but with Yelich, along with Hoskins, throwing there Sal Frelick, William Contreras, Bryce Terang, all these guys give you at least a 335 on base, and they do a nice job of being able to swipe bags, as Frelick, Yelich, Bryce Terang, Jackson Trio, all these 12 stolen bases. But I do think that Pricer is going to be able to go out there and lend a relatively solid start, while Sandy Alcantara just has not been himself this far this season. Now, if you look at Sandy Alcantara's fielding independent, it's down below a 450, but what made him so effective a few seasons ago was his ability to go deep into games, outwalk a lot of guys, 3.8 walks per 9 innings, only about 7 punch-outs per 9, 6.98 ERA. I think that he's doing for some positivity, but I do think that the Brewers find a way to be able to get the job done here. I did set the Brewers at a minus 132, so I like that money line. Here at the 8, I think that's gone a scotch too low, and I think the Pricer is doing for a little regression as well. So I told it at 8.3. I like the over. 957, 958 on the card. The Tampa Bay Rays are on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Chris Paddock is on the bump for the Twins. Zach Little hopes to come up big for the Rays. The Rays are between minus 102 to minus 108 favorites, between minus 108 to minus 115 is that number on Minnesota, and 9.5 is the total. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And with Paddock and company, I did set the Minnesota Twins at a minus 113, so I'm willing to go up to a minus 112 on that money line. For Chris Paddock, it's been an up-down all-around sort of season where he's given up 3+ runs, and now each out of his last 3 starts, seeing some regression there. But for Paddock, he's been able to do a much better job when he's been at home this year. 358 ERA at home with only 0.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings. And Little, he's got a 361 ERA, but he's giving up a not-so-little 2 home runs per 9 innings. To his credit, only giving up 1.1 walks per 9, but both of these guys getting fewer than 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. The deception is not there, but I do think that this is going to be a relatively well-pitched game. This is a circumstance where I'm in on this total under at an 8.8, as for the Tampa Bay Rays, yes, they have been a top 10 team with regards to run scoring, as you've got a pair of guys that will be able to give you 18+ home runs, and Brandon Lau, along Junior Caminero. Absolutely love what I've been seeing as well out of Yandy Diaz. He's sitting darn near 300. He has been really heating up over the last month or so, but you still have a few guys towards the bottom of the fold where it's leaving a bit of something to be desired. The entirety of the catcher spot, Taylor Walls, these guys can get 225 or lower, Cameron Misner. So that's been a bit of an issue, though Jonathan Miranda give you a 400 on base. And I recognize that the Rays overall for the season are about league average with regards to bullpen ERA. That's because they had that one big giant outlier against the Baltimore Orioles where they gave up the 22 runs. Overall, you got a lot of guys that are supplying a sub-3 ERA, with having that out of Eric Orze, Manuel Rodriguez, Pete Fairbanks, Carrick Clevenger, even Kevin Kelly has now worked himself into that as well. And for the Minnesota Twins, it has been a case where this team has been in the bottom 6 in terms of bullpen ERA really since May 1st, but you still have some really good top guys for them as well. Yohan Duran, along with Louis Varland, Danny Kalum. These have been guys who have been able to give you a sub-275 ERA. Brock Stewart has been pretty solid in this bullpen as well. And for the Minnesota Twins, you've got Byron Buxton, who's really getting things going. 19 home runs. He's been able to about a 270 with a 340 on base. Trevor Larnach is up to 12 home runs as well. But, it's been a case where outside these two guys, you don't necessarily have a ton of power. Cody Clemens has 9 home runs, but he's only hitting about a 220. Willie Castro, to his credit, about 355 on base. Ty France moves the line. He's hitting about a 255 along Carlos Correa, but you expect a little bit more of those guys for the Minnesota Twins. About a league average team in terms of run scoring, and I just don't think that they're going to be able to do their part with regards to this one. So I did set my total at 8.8. I'm going to be looking at this total under, and with the Minnesota Twins willing to lay up to a minus 112 on this money line. 959, 960 on the betting board. It is the LA Angels. They hit the red. They're facing off against the Toronto Blue Jays. Right now, the betting board reads to be determined versus to be determined, so they didn't really do us too much of a solid there, but Right now, it's looking like it should be the Professor Kyle Hendricks going for the Angels against Eric Lauer of the Blue Jays, and I've got my handicap. In half or less, looking at the over 9 or higher, the under. I set the Blue Jays at a minus 171 on the money line. I'd be probably looking at a plus 112 or higher with regards to that run line. Would need at least a plus 172 to take a shot on the Angels. I do like the way that the Angels have been playing recently. They've actually worked themselves being a team that might buy at the trade deadline at this point, and they're going to need to buy pitching because Kyle Hendricks just has not been good this far this season. A 4.66 ERA, feeling pennant more around a 4.88. He's giving up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, just not giving you a lot of swing and miss. To his credit, he's now allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 4 starts, but still a lot of trepidation with him, especially when Kyle Hendricks is on the road. Right now, when Kyle Hendricks hits the road, he is right now posting up a 5.44 ERA. That home runs per 9 rate is about 1.7, and for Eric Lauer, he's actually proven himself to be a relatively good starter for this Blue Jays team, albeit he's not necessarily gone too far into games, 5 1/3 innings or fewer in every single start, but a 2.60 ERA, more of a 3.89 fielding dependent, 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, gives up 1.2 home runs per 9, and you do have an LA Angels team that has been very boomer bust as far this season. A bottom 4 team in terms of on-base percentage, a top 3 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Look no further than Taylor Ward, 20 home runs with a 294 on base. You've got Zach Neto, who's been able to give you 12 home runs. He's been able at about a 265. He's been rock solid for them. And Nolan Schunel, 365 on base. Joe Adell, he's really starting to heat up. He hit darn near 300 in the month of June. He's up to 18 home runs, but Logan O'Hoppe, very O'Hoppe about the 17 home runs. Not so O'Hoppe about the 260 on base. And for the LA Angels, bullpen is just absolutely brutal. Bottom 4 in the big leagues in terms of ERA, you're starting to see Hunter Strickland regress a little bit, and that's a bad thing because among guys that have seen at least 10 innings of work out of the bullpen thus far this season, he's the only one that has a ERA below a 3.60. You've got the likes of Kenley Jansen, I know that he's improving, Reed Detmers, Brockenroll Burke, all these guys giving north of 3.90 ERA, and for the Blue Jays, they have been hot and cold with regards to their bullpen, but Uriel Rodriguez, in a little bit of a long relief role, has been solid. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. You've been able to get some good production. Likes Braden Fisher along Brandon Little. Both of these guys also give you a sub-3 ERA as well. I do think that you're going to be able to get a bit more out of Chad Green moving forward, who's had his issues. And for the Blue Jays, this is not a team that's necessarily supplying the boom, but they're averaging 5.2 runs per game despite being a team that is in the bottom 6 of the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Quartet of guys, Edison Barger, George Springer, Vlad Jr., Bo Bichette, all between 10 and 13 home runs. All these guys hitting at least a 263. You've only got one guy hitting below a 325 on base. That'd be Bichette. Vlad Jr., George Springer, both north of a 370 on base, and then don't call his name, Alejandro Kirk and Ernie Clement have been able to 300 apiece as well. So I do think that they get to Kyle Hendricks here. I think that Lauer does a good job of holding down the fort. 8.5 or less, looking at the over 9 or higher, the under for the Blue Jays, plus 112 or higher, looking at that run line, plus 172 or higher, looking at the Angels money line. 961, 962 on the betting board. It is the Detroit Tigers. They're on the road. They're facing off against the Cleveland Guardians as Reese Olson is on the bump for the Tigers, and Slade Sassoni goes for the Cleveland Guardians. Right now, this game is off the board. There were a lot of books that were not sure if we were going to get Casey Mize or not, but if you do get Mize versus Slade Sassoni, I set the Tigers at a minus 124 on the money line, so we'll be willing to lay up to a minus 123 there, plus 125 or higher, looking at the Cleveland Guardians, and made my total in 8.2. So an 8 or less, I'm going to be in on the over at 8.5 or higher. I'm going to be liking the under. For Reese Olson, he's been dealing with a lot of injury this season, but whenever he's been out there over the last few years in general, I've really liked what I've seen out of him. For Reese Olson, overall for this season, he's only made 9 starts. He's posting up a 296 ERA, fielding dependent, more around about a 295, as he's been giving up less than half home run per 9 innings, albeit this is going to be his first start since May, and he's been able to make a lot of minor league rehab appearances, so I do think that he's going to be built up for this one. In terms of the minor league rehab appearances, he made 3 of them, and he did post up a 3.48 ERA, but he was getting 12.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. He won a grand total of 10 1/3 innings, so that means that you're probably not going to get a lot of length out of him, but you've got a bullpen that is rock solid for the Tigers. Recognize that their ERA is right around about league average, but these guys like Brent Herter, Chase Lee, Will Vest, Tommy Canley, they've been able to give you a sub 325 ERA, so I do think that they're going to be able to provide some good assistance there. Slade Sassoni, I do believe, has some relatively good stuff for the Cleveland Guardians, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to have full control, and if he could just cut down on giving up the big mistake. He's giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. That'll be big big for him because he's got a 3.64 ERA, but a 4.40 fielding independent, and he's been much better recently. He has given up 300 runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts. Problem has been run support, as he has had 3 runs of support or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts, and that's a big thing for the Cleveland Guardians. Right now, you've got a very top-heavy lineup in which you've got a guy, Jose Ramirez, who's been able to do a really good job of giving you 13 home runs, hitting above a 300. Stephen Kwan is now hitting just below 300, but I mean, he's been a good leadoff spot for the team. You just have all these guys towards the bottom of the fold. They're not hitting for any sort of average whatsoever. It even goes down to likes of Daniel Schneemann, Kyle Manzardo, Lane Thomas, Will Wilson, Nolan Jones, all get 223 or lower. Recognize that Manzardo is giving you 13 home runs, but not even a ton of on base. And for the Cleveland Guardians, this has been about a league average bullpen in terms of ERA. You've had Hunter Gaddis really start to regress. His ERA is north of a 3.5. They had to throw their Joey Cantillo for a start yesterday. Cade Smith, Kobe Allard have been good in the bullpen as sub 275 ERA, and Emmanuel Clase is starting to round into form a little bit, but you do have a Tigers team that's able to do a nice job of mixing and matching. Herder I mentioned before, Will Vest, all these guys, they're able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. And then for the Detroit Tigers, this has been a top 6 team with regards to run production. Trio of guys with at least 16 home runs: Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter, and Green is out hitting darn near a 300. And these are not solo shots because someone like Javi Baez is giving you about a 285 average. You've gotten Gleyber Torres who moved line, hitting a 385 on base. Colt Keith has been much better for the team. And Wencio Perez, 6 home runs in his first 100 at-bats. He's been hitting north of a 270 as well. So I do think that for the Detroit Tigers, they should be a favorite in the spot. Made them a minus 124, so minus 123 or better. Looking at the Tigers, plus 125 or higher. Looking at the Guardians, and then 8 or less, I'm in on the over, 8.5 or higher. The under, 963, 964 on the betting board. The Boston Red Sox, they hit the road. They're facing off against the Washington Nationals as Mike Soroka is on the bump for the Nats, and Lucas Giolito is on the bump for the Red Sox. Red Sox do find themselves as the road favorite of minus 116, minus 102 on the Nationals. 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 115. Under is minus 105, and set the Red Sox at a minus 127. I'm going to be willing to side with them. For Lucas Giolito, is a less than savory start to the season for him, but he's all of a sudden been able to round into really good form as he overall for the season has a 3.99 ERA. Strikeout numbers aren't necessarily supreme. He's been getting about 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but it's starting to cut down on the deep ball. He has allowed just 2 home runs over the course of his last 4 starts, and it's really been a 9-day difference since his first few starts of the season. He just got completely blown up in the month of May, but you take a look at what he's been able to do really since that start against the Baltimore Orioles. So you look at his last 7 starts, team is 5-2 in that span, 235 ERA in this time span, 3 home runs allowed in 38 1/3 innings. And then on the flip side, Mike Soroka is able to give you some good swing and miss stuff. He's been able to give you north of 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. The big thing is, though, is that he's just giving up the giant mistake, as Mike Soroka is right now giving up north of 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. It's a big reason why he is posting up a 4.70 ERA with a 4.34 fielding pennant in. To his credit, 300 runs or fewer allowed in 4 out of his last 5 starts, but that said, he's also backed up by a bullpen that's last in the National League in terms of ERA. So many guys like Eduardo Salazar, Jackson Rutledge, they were trotting out their Ori Lopez, who they had to DFA. They just have not been able to find anything whatsoever. Kyle Finnegan has been solid as a closer, and Brad Lord, since they took him on the starting rotation, has been able to give you a bit of something as well. And also with the Washington Nationals, I find it very curious their home and road splits. They're averaging about 3.8 to 3.9 runs per game at home, a full run per game more when they're away from home. You've had CJ Abrams be able to give you 12 home runs, but he doesn't hit the same when he's at home. James Wood is giving you good wood, 385 on base, 22 home runs. He's been a constant for this team. Nathaniel Lowe is up to 13 home runs this season, but Wood along with Lowe are pretty much the lone 2 guys on this roster that have given you north of 4 home runs at home. Alex Call, when he gets to call, he's been able to give you about a 385 on base, so he's moving the line along with Luis Garcia. But flip side for the Boston Red Sox, it does feel like they're starting to find their bearings without Rafael Devers, as Weiler Abreu is starting to really while out, 17 home runs, hitting about a 260. You've been able to get good production as well out of Trevor Story recently as well, 12 home runs. Still a 286 on base. You need him to be more consistent, but I mean, these mix and match guys. Carlos Narvaez at the catcher spot, 350 on base. Abraham Toro doesn't necessarily play every day. He, Rob Revsnyder, Rami Gonzalez have all been able to at least a 270. And for this Red Sox bullpen, they have been a top 12 team with regards to their ERA. If you could get to Aroldis Chapman, he's been one of the best closers in all of baseball with a sub-2 ERA. You've also had Jorge Alcala that's coming out over from Minnesota, give you some good innings as he, in a Red Sox uniform specifically, Greg Wise or Justin Wilson, have been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. Garrett Woodlock has been a little bit hit or miss as a long reliever, but do think that the Boston Red Sox do a nice job getting to Soroka and they get the job done. Do think that Lucas Giolito might see a little bit of regression as well, so I did set my total at a 9.2. I like the 8.5 over, and I do like the Red Sox on the money line. 965, 966 on the betting board. The New York Yankees, they're on the road against the New York Mets. We do know that Marcus Stroman is on the bump for the Yankees. Right now it's old TBD on the bump for the Mets, so this game is off the board. FanDuel does have an opener up. They've got the New York Mets at a minus 112. With the New York Yankees, you're going to be getting them at a minus 104 with a total of 9 over minus 120, and the under is even. And I've handicapped as if Paul Blackburn is going to begin the start here. And I did set the Mets at a minus 111. So if we can get like a minus 110 or something on the Mets, I'd be willing to side there. And if you do get Paul Blackburn, he's been less than tremendous. But also, you've got a guy, Marcus Stroman, that I just have no faith in whatsoever. Ever since he went to the New York Yankees, has had north of a 4.3 ERA. For Stroman, he has actually been quite a bit better on the road rather than at home in recent years as well, but in his 4 starts thus far this season has been just getting destroyed. 13 runs allowed in 14 and a third innings, 5 strikeouts of 5.7 walks per 9. In his first start off the injured list, he looked a little bit better, so that does give you a little bit of encouragement. As for Stroman, he goes out there against the Athletics, gives up 1 run over the course of 5 innings. Need to see a little bit more before I can buy in, and if you do indeed get Mr. Blackburn, well, just has not been amazing for him as well. 7.71 ERA in his 6 total appearances. He made 2 long relief appearances and 4 starts, and just a guy that has never been great throughout his career. For his career, he gives you about a 4.97 ERA with 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. But that said, I did set my total at 8.8 because both of these bullpens have been relatively solid. For the Mets, they've been a top 8 team with regards to their bullpen ERA. The long guys in Oscar Barzobin along with Jose Buto have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Edwin Diaz has given you a sub-2 ERA. You did see Reed Garrett act up a little bit in that series against the Brewers, but all in all, it's been pretty solid there. And you do have a Mets lineup that has a quartet of different guys. Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, Juan Soto, that have all been able to give you at least 15 home runs. For Alonso along with Soto, both give you north of 375 on base. The bottom of the full, Brett Beatty, Tyrone Taylor, Luis Torrens hitting a 225 or lower along with Mark Vientos. That's a little bit less than savory though, so it's a top-heavy lineup. And for the Yankees, they've been able to figure out the offense a little bit more here recently as they've gone past the 4-run plateau in each of their last 4 games, but it is still a little bit of hit or miss offense ever since coming off the injured list. You haven't been able to get a ton out of Giancarlo Stanton. He's been able to move the line and get on base, but he's just not necessarily giving you a lot of power at a 340 on base and just 1 home run. Yasan Dominguez has been able to do a nice job getting on. He's up to about a 270 average along Cody Bellinger, and Aaron Judge continues to be Aaron Judge. He's been able to give this team 30 home runs, a 470 on base, but then you've got these guys like Austin Wells, Anthony Volpe that you need a little bit more out of as well. And this is a Yankees team that they entered into the day on Tuesday before they gave up that massive spot to the Blue Jays, doing a really good job with regards to their bullpen. You do have Luke Weaver, who's been starting to act up a little bit, but he, Tim Hill, along with as well Jonathan Loaizaga, have been pretty solid this bullpen. They've all been able to give you a sub-355 ERA, so I do think that this could be a little bit of a lower scoring affair, even though you've got 2 starters I don't necessarily trust, willing to lay up to a minus 110 with the Mets, plus 112 or higher. Looking at the Yankees, and then in effortlessly over 9 or higher, the under 967, 968 on the bang board. The Pittsburgh Pirates walk the plank. They're on the road against the Seattle Mariners. Right now it reads old to be determined versus old to be determined on the bump with regards to this one, but right now on CBS Sports I am seeing Brian Wu saying woohoo to another start for the Seattle Mariners, and Bailey Falter hoping to not live up to the same for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I've handicapped this with the Mariners at a minus 191 on the money line. I'd be willing to take a plus 106 or higher on that run line. Plus 192 or higher would side me on the Pittsburgh Pirates, and then made a total of 7.3, 7 or less. Looking at the over 7.5 or higher, the under for the Seattle Mariners. They just decided to push everyone back in the rotation a day. I'm not quite sure why they decided to do so, but they decided to do so. Brian Wu has been very rock solid for this team. He's been posting up an ERA that's hovering right around about a 275. His walks per 9 rate is less than 1.5. He's given up about 1.2 to 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, but all in all has been able to be a steadying force for a Seattle Mariners team that has been able to get quite a bit of production out of the offense. Big dumper Cal Raleigh has obviously been your main man. He's been able to give you 33 home runs thus far this season, but JP Crawford's moving line, give you about a 385 on base. You've had Dom Canzone do a nice job of being able to step up. He's been able to supply this team with 5 home runs, but all have been relatively recently. Brandon Williamson, he's moving the line about a 255 along with Randy Arozarena or a Polanco, and for Arozarena up to a 360 on base as well. Julio Rodriguez is starting to heat up as well, and for the Seattle Mariners, it's a slightly above average team with regards to their bullpen ERA. You've been able to get Gabe Spire along with Andres Munoz and Matt Brash to give give you some really good innings. All three of these guys give you a sub 3.55 ERA. Trent Thornton has been awful for the team, but Carlos Vargas has been able to be pretty rock solid as well. And then for the Pittsburgh Pirates, if you look ever since May 1st, this has been a top 8 team with regards to bullpen ERA. You've got David Bednar, who was really awful to start the season, really starting to come into form. He's been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. Dennis Santana, along Caleb Ferguson, the former Dodgers, have also been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. Chase Shogard has been pretty solid in long relief as well, but for the Pirates, even though they've had a little bit of an outburst with regards to their offense, still a bottom 3 team in the big leagues with regards to runs per game. And I'm doing this for the 4th of July, and right now you've got 3 guys on the roster with north of 4 home runs. You've got Andrew McCutcheon with 8 bombs, 350 on base, Oneil Cruz 15 home runs, and Brian Reynolds is at 10. And for Oneil Cruz, he's a part of just a big giant cavalcade of guys. They're hitting below a 225 for this team. He, Alexander Canario, Henry Davis are in there as well, Jared Trollo. These guys have just given you a big giant nothing burger. So I do think that this is going to be a relatively well pitched game. 7 or less likely the over, 7.5 or higher the under, especially with Bailey Falter being able to step up as well. For Bailey Falter, he's not a guy that's going to blow you away with great swing miss stuff or anything like that, but he's become a little bit of a master of inducing soft contact. And when you're a guy like Falter that's not necessarily getting those swings and misses, that's exactly what you need to do. Needs to cut down on the 3.3 walks per 9 innings, but 3.62 ERA, closer to a 4.30 fielding dependent with those 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Has given up 3+ runs in 2 out of his last 3 starts, but he's done a good job of not giving up early, north of 3 all season long. So 7 or less to the over, 7.5 or higher the under with the Mariners. Plus 106 or higher looking at that run line, plus 192 or higher would look at the Pirates on the money line. 969, 970 on the card. You've got the Walker Texas Rangers on the road against the Slam Diego Padres. As Randy Vasquez is on the bump for the Padres, and it is for the Rangers, Mr. Kumar Rocker. With the Rangers, you're going to be getting them between plus 101 to a plus 107. Meanwhile, minus 115 to minus 125 is that number on San Diego. 8.5 to 9 is the total. On the 9, the under is minus 120. The over is even on the 8.5. Over is minus 120. The under is even, and I'm going to be taking a look at the under. Semi-total in an 8.3. Recognize that both of these starting pitchers have been less than tremendous. Randy Vasquez doesn't necessarily have a bad ERA. He's right around about a 3.65 with regards to that ERA, but fielding independent has been rising up to north of a 5 because he gives up 4 walks per 9 innings. He's only getting about 5.5 punch-outs per 9, a little bit over a home run per 9 innings as well. And for Kumar Rocker, he had a really bad start to the season, but in his last 3 starts, he's starting to round into form. Last 3 starts, he's been able to give you 16 punch-outs over the course of just under 16 innings. He has given up 4 earned runs in this time span. Overall for the season, Kumar Rocker has been giving up only about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, so he's got a 6.13 ERA, more of a 4.17 fielding independent, so I do think that he's going to continue to round in form, and he's backed up by a bullpen that ever since May 1st has been in the top 3 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. For the Texas Rangers, they don't necessarily have a lot of flashy guys, but got a lot of guys who are going out there doing their job, as Robert Garcia, Sean Armstrong, Hobie Milner, Luke Jackson. These guys will give you sub 3.45 ERA. Chris Martin has been exceptional in this bullpen as well. The problem for the team is that you just don't have a lot of guys that are supplying the boom. Wyatt Langford, your top home run hitter, is currently on the injured list. You've had Josh Smith be able to hit north of a 270 for this team, but you still have the struggles of Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, Jake Berger, the currently injured Jock Peterson, all hitting at 238 or lower, not providing a lot of on base, not providing a lot of power. And then on the flip side, you got a San Diego Padres team that they've been pedestrian with their offense as well. They're averaging fewer than 4.3 runs per game, and they've been in the bottom 10 with regards to home runs out of per at-bat basis. You do have Manny Machado, Gavin Sheets, along with Fernando Tatis Jr. I'll give you at least 12 home runs this season. You've had Martin Maldonado and Elias. He is at the catcher spot to be relatively rough, and you're just mixing and matching out there with regards to that final outfield spot / a DH, as Trenton Brooks is right now seeing at bats. That's not necessarily a place where you want to be. Luis Rise has been able to do a solid job in terms of being able to get on base, but this is also a Padres team that's been one of the best in terms of their bullpen ERA as well. So you've got the likes of Jeremiah Estrada, Adrian Morejon, Jason Adam. I'll give you a sub 350 ERA, albeit Robert Suarez has been blowing quite a few games recently, but still you've got a relatively good team in terms of being able to hold down the fort. And I do think that this is going to be a relatively well-pitched game, set by total at 80.3, so like the under and with the Padres, did set them at a minus 142 on the money line. I'm going to be willing to lay it. 971, 972 on the betting board. It is the Baltimore Orioles on the road against the Atlanta Braves. Spencer Strider is on the bump for the Bravos, and Charlie Morton is on the bump for Baltimore. Total on this game is 9, under is minus 120, the over is even, with the Braves between minus 172 to minus 181 is that number on them, between plus 148 to plus 160, that number on Baltimore. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Braves, you're going to be finding that at a plus plus 115, was willing to go to a plus 107, so anything of a plus 110 or higher, going to be looking at that Braves run line. For Spencer Strider, he appears to be rounding into form as the team, well, may need him to, because Spencer Schwellenbach is now on the injured list, and it looks like his season's done, so that's not necessarily amazing. But for Spencer Strider, first few starts of the season was relatively rough. It does feel like he's been able to get that swing and miss stuff back, as he's been able to give you 8+ strikeouts in 3 out of his last 4 starts, and has allowed a combined 6 earned runs over the course of his last 4 as well. The team started out 0-5 in his first 5 starts. They have now gone 3-1 in his last 4. Overall for the season, is posting up a 3.86 ERA, but the fielding independent is a 3.56 with less than a home run allowed per 9 innings. And for Charlie Morton, I recognize that he's been better recently, but still not a guy that I want to trust in. 5.63 ERA. Once again, credit where it is due. He's given up 300 runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts, but still has given up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings and gets into trouble with regards to walks. 4.3 walks per 9 innings. That doesn't allow him to go very deep into starts, and this is the Baltimore Orioles bullpen that has been a big giant issue, as currently they're in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. I'll have to love what you're getting out of Felix Bautista, give you a sub-3 ERA, but then you get these schlubs out there like a Matt Bowman who's giving up north of a 4.5 ERA. We'll say Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto have actually been halfway decent for the team recently, but I mean, you've had Yennier Cano have a rough season. He's posting up north of 4 ERA. And the Orioles offense has been relatively brutal as well. They're in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game away from home. Cedric Mullins is right now leading the way with 12 home runs. Albeit, you've got 5 different guys on the roster with at least 10 home runs, as Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Henderson, Roman Laureano, and Ryan O'Hearn are all in that fold as well. And to the credit of Ryan O'Hearn, 380 on base. He's been rock solid with that regard, but you don't have a ton of guys that are doing an amazing job of moving the line. You've had Adley Rutschman lying down the injured list, and Edson Kierstead got sent down to the minor league level. Jordan Westberg along with Colton Cowser, they've dealt with injury, and even though these 2 guys, when they've been in there, have not necessarily been amazing for this bunch, and the Atlanta Braves are currently a bottom 8 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. They just have not gotten a lot generated, despite the fact that Ronald Acuna Jr. has been pretty amazing for the team. He's giving you 9 home runs at a little bit north of a month worth of work, and he's up to about a 450 on base. And then you've had Matt Olson slug out 16 home runs north of a 360 on base. Austin Riley, he does a nice job giving you about 12 home runs. He's sitting at 270, and Olson, he's got a really long on-base streak that's lasting as well. Drake Baldwin, not necessarily a ton of power, but still 9 home runs, 345 on base. But here's the issue. Ozzie Albies along with Michael Harris. These 2 guys have been useless. Like, Michael Harris is giving you 240 on base. Ozzie Albies is sitting at 225. Both have 6 home runs. And this has been a Braves team that ranks in the top 7 in terms of bullpen ERA ever since May 1st. Desbel Hernandez is just coming off the injury list. He, Dylan Dodd, Aaron Bummer, Dylan Lee. These guys have all been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Pierce Johnson has been pretty solid as well. So I do think that this is going to be actually a very well-pitched game. I did some HL at an 8.1. I do like the under, and with the Braves, I'm going to be willing to side with them on the run line at a plus 108 or higher. 973, 974 on the card. The Chicago White Sox, if they're facing off against the Colorado Rockies, as Antonio Senzatella is on the bump for the Rockies, and Adrian Don't Call Him Doogie Howser is on the bump for the White Sox. White Sox do find themselves anywhere between minus 118 to a minus 125. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Colorado Rockies, going to be getting them anywhere between plus 104 to a plus 108. Total's 11. Over is minus 115. Under is minus 105. And with the Colorado Rockies, I did set them at a plus 144. Antonio Senzatella giving up 13.9 hits per 9 innings. 13.9. Good grief, this guy has just been absolutely brutal with that regard. You've got a Colorado Rockies team that supports him with a bullpen that ranks 25th in the big league. So I feel like they've been a little bit better than that because they're playing at elevation. You'll give some credit where it's due. Victor Vodnik, Jake Bird, these guys have been able to give you sub 4 year 8. Juan Mejia has actually been relatively okay in this bullpen as well. But again, with Antonio Senzatella, he's getting only about 4.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And for Mr. Senzatella, 6.69 ERA this far this season. Meanwhile, for Hauser, he's been actually really good. A 190 ERA with less than a half a home run allowed per 9 innings. Not a strikeout artist. He's getting fewer than 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. His walks per 9 rate approaching right around 3, and he is backed up by a Chicago White Sox team that's averaging 2.9 runs per game away from home. That's very much less than savory. Just nobody that's really going yard for you. Miguel Vargas along with Andrew Benintendi, both of them will give you 10 home runs thus far this season, but you've got these guys like Joshua Palacios, Ryan Noda, Josh Rojas, Brooks Baldwin. the interesting situation with Luis Robert, who's not been on the field for like the last week or so. All these guys are currently hitting a 215 or lower for the team. Vargas only getting about a 220, and then the guys that actually get on base, Mike Tauchman about a 350 on base. Lennon Sosa's been able at about a 270. They give you no power whatsoever. It is a White Sox team that they themselves are in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, but you do still have Steven Wilson, Alante, and Altavia being able to give you a sub 355 ERA. Jordan Leisure has been leisurely not doing great, and Grant Taylor is a young guy that is trying to find his way right now, but I do think that for the Colorado Rockies, it's an interesting ordeal with their offense, only scoring about 4.1 runs per game at home this far this season. That's actually a bottom 12 mark in the big leagues, as you just haven't gotten a lot out of Orlando Arcia, hitting about a 206. He hasn't been an upgrade for the team. Dario Estrada has been neither here nor there as well. You've had Ryan McMahon, though, in north of 270 at home. He's up to 8 home runs in his home games. Hunter Goodman has been absolutely sensational for the team, hitting for 16 home runs at the catcher spot, hitting north of 285. Brenton Doyle has been useless, but Mickey Moniak at home has been able to crank out 8+ home runs, so it's an interesting circumstance. I did set my total at 11.1. I do think that the White Sox get all aboard Antonio Senzatella, so like the money line of the White Sox, and I do like this total over 975, 976 on the card. The LA Dodgers playoffs to the Houston Astros, as you've got Ben Casparis, who's going to be on the bump for the Dodgers, and Lance McCullers Jr. is on the bump for Houston. 9 is the total, over is minus 120, the under is even, and with the Dodgers, and between minus 172 to minus 182 is that number on them. Between plus 149 to plus 157 is the number on the Astros. I'm going to side with the Astros. I did set their money line price at a plus 150. Recognize that Lance McCullers Jr. has not been sensational for the team thus far this season. He's posting up an ERA of a 6.61, but he's still getting whiffs. He's getting about 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. The 5.5 walks per 9 innings, very much less than tremendous. And after a few weeks out of the rotation, his first start back, he did give up 8 runs against the Chicago Cubs, albeit that was a Chicago Cubs team that was firing all cylinders, but yeah, that's not necessarily amazing, and he does have to face off against an LA Dodgers team that's number 1 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. You've got Shohei Ohtani just continue to be Shohei Ohtani, 30+ home runs. He's been able to give you north of a 380 on base. Will Smith continues to get jiggy with it, north of a 400 on base. Michael Conforto's been an issue for this team, and you already deal with the injury to Max Muncy. He's most likely going to be out of the fold for the next few days, but you still have been able to have Freddie Freeman hit for above a 300 for this team. Mookie Betts only about a 320 on base. You know that he's going to pick it up. Teoscar Hernandez along with Andy Paz, a combined 30 home runs. And for Ben Casparis, he's been a relatively good long guy for the team as well. For Ben Casparis, I really like what he's been able to bring to the table, as his ERA is a sub 3.5. He did have that one rough bulk appearance, I believe, against the Kansas City Royals last week, but he's been able to hold it down both as a starter and a reliever, as he's been able to give you about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Does a good job of being able to keep the walks down. Only about 2 walks per 9 innings with that appearance against the Royals, by the way, up to a 3.97 ERA, but still feeling a pen that's much lower than that. He's only given up about 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, but you take a look at the rest of the bullpen, it's been a little bit hit or miss ever since coming off the injury list. Michael Kopech has been tremendous, having yet to allow an earned run, and then the likes of Lou Trevino, Alex Vesia, Drake Dreyer, these guys have been able to give you sub 3.25 ERA, but Kirby Yates has not been himself, nearly a 4 ERA. You need to be getting a little bit more of these guys like Anthony Banda and company, and on the flip side, it's an Astros team that does rank in the top 6 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA as well. You've been able to have a lot of guys be able to fire a sub 3.25 ERA like the Bryans, Brian King, Brian Abreu. You've had good production out of Bennett Sosa, Sean Dubin, Josh Hader. So these guys, I think, are going to be able to continue to produce, and even with the injury to a guy that I really like in Mr. Jeremy Pena, who's sitting north of 320 with 11 home runs. Still have a quartet of guys in Isaac Paredes, Yunior Diaz, Jose Altuve, Christian Walker with at least 10 home runs as far this season. Now for Diaz and Walker, both below a 385 on base. Need a bit more there, but Cam Smith is sitting darn near a 300 now. He's giving you a 360 on base. Victor Carantini has been okay in terms of being able to move the line as well, so it's an interesting circumstance. I do think that for the Astros, they do get to Casparis. I think that McCullers gives up his runs as well, so I might tell 9.4. I like the over, and I do like the Astros on the money line. 977, 978 on the card. The Kansas City Royals are on the road, facing off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Chris with the K. Bubich is on the bump for the Royals, and it is old Eduardo Rodriguez on the bump for the Diamondbacks. D-backs are between minus 110 to minus 115 favorites. Minus 105 to even money. That number on Kansas City. 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8. Over is minus 120, and the under is even. And on the 8.5. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. With Eduardo Rodriguez and company, I did set the Diamondbacks at a minus 112, so I'm going to be willing to side with them on the money line for Eduardo Rodriguez. He's been able to do a solid job since coming off the injured list of being able to just keep things, shall we say, mellow. He has given up now 2 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts. He had a really brutal start to the season, but has been doing a nice job in terms of getting strikeouts, 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's cutting down on giving up the deep ball. Over his last 3 starts, he has only given up 1 home run, so that's something that you do like to see. Now for the Arizona Diamondbacks, this bullpen is very brutal. Bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of their ERA. Jalen Beeks along Shelby Miller have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA, but then you get into the likes of a Kevin Ginkles give you a 10 ERA. They're trotting out their John Curtis with 2 S's. He's been an issue, and Beeks with what he did yesterday, he's now actually north of a 4 ERA, so and it's getting even worse for this team. You just have not been able to get a lot out of Justin Martinez as well. He's rocking right around about a 4 ERA, and he's been banged up, and on the flip side, you do have a bunch in the Kansas City Royals that just can't hit. Right now, dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Vinny Pasquantino, coupled with as well Bobby Witt Jr., have been able to give you a double-figure amount of homers, but I mean, for Salvador Perez, 282 on base, single amount of bombs. You just need a little bit more there. Miguel Garcia has been solid in terms of getting on base, hitting above a 300. Bobby Witt Jr. is hitting about a 290. Jonathan India is up to about a 330 on base, but you've got these young guys that just have not been able to produce. Jack Caglione, John Rave, hitting below the middle line of 200. Nick Lofton. These guys, you just need a little bit more out of them. For the Royals, this has been a top 10 team with regards to bullpen ERA. You've got Carlos Estevez, Lucas Ursich in the 8th and 9th inning roles, both being able to give you a sub 225 ERA. Steven Cruz has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA as well. Daniel Lynch has been rock solid. So, circumstance where I do think that for the Kansas City Royals, they're going to be able to do a solid job of locking down there. And Chris with the K. Bubich is starting to regress a little bit, but he overall has been able to have a really nice season. As for Bubich, he's going to give you a strikeouts per 9 rate that hovers right around about 9.5. Only about 0.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 225 ERA, 266 fielding dependent, having given up 2 earned runs or fewer in now 3 out of his last 5 starts. Do think that this is going to be a little bit of a lower scoring affair, despite the fact that the Diamondbacks are a top 5 team in terms of runs per game. They're currently missing Corbin Carroll's on the injured list, but you've had Eugenio Suarez be able to supply 26 plus home runs for this bunch. You've had Lourdes Gurriel now hitting above a 250 as well. Randall Grichuk has been rock solid over the last few games, and you've got Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte give you 17 plus home runs. He's been able to do a really nice job north of 4 on base. As a matter of fact, now 19 home runs for the Marte Parte, but you do have a few guys like Tim Tebow at the bottom fold who have been a little bit rough and have been pressed into action due to injury, but still do think that the Diamondbacks find a way to persevere. Set them at a minus 112, so do you like the Diamondbacks on the money line? And you're at the 8.5. I like the under. We wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. It is the San Francisco Giants on the road against the Athletics, as JP Sears goes for the Athletics. Justin Verlander's on the bump for the Giants. Total on this game is 10, over is minus 115, the under is minus 105. Between minus 105 to minus 110 is the money line price on both of these teams, and set the Giants at a minus 146. I recognize that things have been less than tremendous for Justin Verlander, but it's not like JP Sears has been anything to write home about either. For Mr. Sears, he's right now posting up an ERA of a 5.09 as he's just given up too much of the deep ball. 1.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings. To his credit, he's only giving about 2.3 walks per 9 innings, but for JP Sears, he just has not been good at home, as so many of these Sacramento A's pitchers just have not been. As for Mr. Sears, 6.68 ERA with giving up nearly 3 home runs per 9 innings at home. That goes down to a 4.14 when he's on the road. And for Justin Verlander, he's been less than savory as well, as yet to pick up a win this far this season. 4.26 ERA, feeling dependent more around about a 4.39, 3.3 walks to 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's been relatively consistent in terms of not giving up a ton. 3 earned runs or fewer given up in each of his last 5 starts, and he's backed up by the number 1 bullpen in terms of ERA in the big leagues. Camilo Duvall, Eric Miller, Tyler Rogers, along with Randy Rodriguez, have all been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, and for the Giants, a real issue has been the offense, but they were able to bust out the last 2 nights against the Arizona Diamondbacks, as it's been a case where Jung-Ho Lee is now hitting below a 255. You just need a little bit more there. Mike Yastrzemski is doing a nice job at the top of the fold. He's now giving you a 341 on base. Willie Adames is starting to pick it up a little bit, multiple doubles in the game yesterday, but still hitting about a 220 with 10 home runs. You just expect a bit more there. And for Rafael Devers, ever since he joined the San Francisco Giants, it's been a little bit rough for him. So overall for the season, he's been able to give this team 16 or 17 home runs, and he's had an on-base percentage of a 384, but in a Giants nice uniform, barely hitting above the Mendoza line of 200, so going to need a little bit more there. Tyler Fitzgerald just not giving you a lot of production with regards to a power perspective, but I do think that they get to an A's bullpen that is currently second worst in the big leagues in terms of ERA. You really don't have anyone in this bullpen other than Sean Newcomb that's giving you a sub-4 ERA. Hogan Harris has begun to regress for this team. Mason Miller, I know that he's better than the ERA would indicate at a 4.55, but he's been having a rough year. Tyler Ferguson is posting up north of a 6 ERA. And for the A's, you do have some good power in this lineup. Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, a combined 32 home runs as far this season. With Rooker, he's been able to hit about a 270. Lawrence Butler, Soderstrom, well, I mentioned before, Shea Langeliers, Nick Kurtz, a bunch of guys hitting between about a 240 to a 255, all with relatively good power. Shea Langeliers, Shea has banged for 12 home runs as far this season, and then Nick Kurtz, 12 home runs and fewer than 175 at bats, so I do think that you're going to get plenty of offense in this game. I did set my total at a 10.6, so I do like the over, and with the Giants, I set them at a minus 146, so like them on the money line. That'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated, and then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, and that means I'm back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.